Hey there, and welcome to Money and You. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host. My search for more fulfilling work led me to career and business coaching, where I stumbled upon a game-changing discovery. Money issues often start with our mindset and habits. You see, our relationship with money is the key to overcoming those frustrating financial obstacles. As an entrepreneur, coach, and problem solver, I'm passionate about helping you create a great relationship with money. Because, turns out, that's the foundation for a limit-free life. Each week on Money and You, I speak with amazing guests about all things money, mindset, practical tips, and everything in between. We're here to give you new insights, education, and empowerment so money can be one of your favorite relationships. So join us for some lively conversations and let's transform your financial life together. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Money and You Show. I'm Michelle Perkins, your host, and I'm extremely excited today about our guest and the conversation we're going to have about financial planning. We're going to talk about a lot of important things, kind of what are some key things to think about at different points in your life, different ages, different stages, and also the guest today is just somebody who really understands the value of financial planning. Not only is she a financial planner, but she's needed to implement a lot of these ideas in her own life and has really had a really profound experience rebuilding and doing all kinds of things that a lot of people can relate to. And I've met her in person. I thought she was wonderful. And somebody really relatable. People always are a little fearful of financial advisors that they're not going to be somebody that they can really talk to. And our guest today is not one of those. She's very, very easy to talk to and smart and ready to help. And so I'm going to introduce her. We'll have a whole conversation on a variety of things that you may not have heard before. So I hope you will stick around. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome in Jennifer Strong. And Jennifer is, I'm going to find out what she is with my bio right here. Jennifer Strong has over 20 years of experience in the financial industry and has lived and worked in Ventura County since 1992. She's a financial advisor. She has many designations after her name, including CFP and AEP. And she has served individuals, families, and businesses through her independent RIA firm with Schwab as custodian. Jennifer specializes in compassionate financial planning and investment management with a niche in navigating widowhood, divorce, and inheritance. And I know she's got some other specialties as well. She is a graduate of University of California in Santa Barbara, and again, has many designations and affiliations that I could read to you, but I'm going to introduce her instead. So, Jennifer, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today, Michelle.
I'm really excited to have you here. And, a lot of the people that I have on the show, I haven't met personally, but you and I have. And I really felt very confident in you from the beginning. So,
wow, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm always on the lookout for people that I feel really good about who I can refer to people. So I'm so happy to have had the conversations we've had and to learn more about you. So, I want to jump in and maybe just start with a little more background on how you, got into this business in the first place and how that goes.
Sure. Well, you read my lovely little bio, which, as we all know, doesn't tell the whole story, correct? And in fact, so this is sort of second life career for me after a challenging and difficult divorce, where I truly had to start over with my kids, start over financially, start over with a new career, and not a new career, but a new push and a way to support myself and my family. And that was, I had been a financial advisor for a brief period of time while I was married, but really wanted to make a go of building a practice of clients that I could be with until the end. And so, working with my clients and doing financial planning feels like a family. You spend a lot of time. It's a very intimate process. So I did that, various steps along the way, started with Merrill Lynch, ended up working for a small community bank that was wonderful and lovely, spent quite a few years there, but always knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to have my own business and start my own practice. So here I am today in Westlake Village, California, doing that. And that's how I met you.
Yeah. Thank you. And yeah, I feel like people don't always look at their financial advisor and think that they've been through some of the same things that they may be going through. And so I always find it to be really helpful for the person across the table when you're talking about your finances to be understanding on that level.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So, yes, great. Thank you for that. And so let's, one of the things that I just loved, I think about it a lot. This may surprise you, but, the day we met, it was a really, down day in the market.
Oh,
And I walked in to meet with you and you were like so excited. And I thought, okay. And the TV was on and, and you were rushing around and you told me actually how busy you had been because there were all these opportunities. And I just loved the fact that instead of the rest of the world was probably worrying and all of that. And you were finding this as like a great chance to service your clients who maybe had been waiting for a down day to buy some stock.
Well, and that's just it. There are times in which clients of mine may have added money to their retirement account, or perhaps I have a new client who has transferred assets over and we have sold some of the stocks or investments that, I recommended we get rid of to try to replace with potentially better performing investments. And so I usually have a group of accounts and clients that have cash on the sidelines. And so when there's a down day in the market, I go, okay, I can go in and trade and I can buy because it truly is an opportunity to buy when things are lower, because I have a lot of, I believe that over time, the market will continue to rise, even though it's going up and down like this. So there's that opportunity, but it's also an opportunity to reach out to clients who I know might be a little nervous about the market being down. So I can give them a call and reassure them that this is normal. This is normal volatility that since the beginning of time, since the invention of the stock market, it has continued to go up, but you have to be able to stomach and weather that volatility. So, no, it is a lot of fun. It is exciting. As you can tell, I like what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think that's great. And we did talk a little about, just the various things that happen through life and financial planning for those. And sure. I always love this because I do remember sitting down with the first financial planner, the first time I ever sat down with one. And it felt very much like, here's what you do and here's what happens. And as I got older, I realized that's the hope, but life gets in the way, right? And things happen that nobody expects. And so it isn't this linear, kind of invest in these things and at this age and the magic's going to happen. I mean, it can.
Right.
But, yeah. So, how do you have this conversation with people who feel like, things have happened and now it's late, and it's maybe in their minds, maybe it's potentially too late. Obviously it's never too late. You can always do things. But, yeah, do you find that you're having a lot of those conversations, and how do you navigate that?
I think, Michelle, what you're referring to is that, one can make a plan, but then life changes in the meantime. And so, the plans in my world in financial planning, I put forth a plan and always describe to clients that this very well could change. So we try to do our best with the information that we have right now. And that's why it's so important to meet and continue to get updates with my clients about what's going on in their lives. So I typically meet with clients at least twice a year. I offer twice a year meetings, but I'm always available in between as well. It's not like that's the only time we can meet, but at least on a regular basis, I want to know, the first thing I ask in those review meetings is, how are you? What updates are there in your life? What do I need to know? Tell me what's been going on, because those things tell me what could potentially be affecting the financial planning that we've done already. And so I'm always ready to pivot, ready to adjust, talk to them about what that might mean, how we might need to change the investments that they have so that it can accommodate whatever changes they have in place or need. And I'm sounding very general when I say that. So, for example, if I recently had a client, he's a young man who found himself with money due to an insurance settlement, due to an accident, a car accident, an unfortunate car accident. And so he found himself with a sizable amount of money. And so we had invested a good portion of it in equities in the market, which are all, in my opinion, always long-term. They need to be invested for the long term so that if you needed the money, you wouldn't be catching it on one of those downturns, because the downturns are always there. So he came to me and said, I really want to buy some real estate with that money. And I know we said it was going to be long term, but I've changed my mind and this is what I'm going to do with it. So literally that day, because the market is at an all-time high right now, literally while he sat there, we sold out of his equities so that I knew that we could capture that high value and would not put the money at risk for when he needs it within the next 6 months or so. So that's an example. Normally my clients are, I'm managing their retirement account. So they've been contributing to it gradually over time. They don't intend to need to access it until later on in life. But then it could be a case of a couple. I have a client couple, and they came to me and gave me the sad news that the husband had been diagnosed with basically a terminal diagnosis. And so, we had to look at it, all three of us together, and figure out what that meant for his wife and how that looked going forward. So super important to be nimble in these situations.
Yeah. Wow. And thank you. And I love that, because financial planning is really it's a separate kind of expertise from investing. I mean, it's
Indeed.
two different things.
Absolutely.
I feel like everybody knows that. So, and not everybody who can invest your money is also a financial planner. So, I think that's a huge advantage, because, am I even getting this right? Is that correct?
Well, yes. I mean, there are those of us who place a much greater emphasis on the financial planning part of it.
Okay.
But every wealth advisor or financial advisor has the responsibility to be understanding the big picture of their client before they make any investment recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
And, sadly, that's not always the case. I do hear stories. But, any recommendation of how to invest should be with the knowledge of what the intention of this money is and what other monies the client may have to fall back on.
Yeah. And you mentioned, hearing stories. We've all heard the stories, but what do you say is the most important things to look out for? I mean, given those stories. Okay, let me just stay positive. I would say find an advisor, a planner that you can communicate well with, and that the communication style and frequency and method is sort of
defined ahead of time, because I do find that in some of those negative stories or bad experiences that people have had, it's sometimes just about the fact that they are not communicating with their advisor in the way that they would like to. And that might be not as much frequency, or they're just not understanding each other. And I think it's incredibly important to ensure that my clients understand me, that we're communicating, I'm getting feedback. So I think communication is probably number one.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I hear from most people who talk about this. And it's not on the advisor so much. I mean, it's easy to say, oh, well, this happened and I didn't talk to my advisor this year, but did you actually try to talk to your advisor this year? Like, I think we have to advocate for ourselves in this
Indeed.
as well. And I know with my advisors and my tax accountant, I always try to make some planning appointments, and, they're busy. Like, they're not necessarily, sometimes they will reach out and say, let's do this. But if I don't get back to them, they're not going to hound me, and it's really up to me. So, it's wonderful to have support and a team of financial people on your side, but you have to, make the appointments and, really pay attention as well. I feel like a lot of people don't really know what their advisor is doing with their money. I don't know. Do you find that? Or I'm sure, you inform them, but.
Well, I'm proud to say not in my client relationships, but I do find that sadly more often than, I'm sort of, it's upsetting when I hear that from someone that said that they don't even understand or know what they're invested in or what's happening. And it just seems that, again, it was a breakdown in communication. And, I appreciate that you say that there is some responsibility on the client side. That's in that there is some truth to that. But I would also say that, it really is up to me to ensure that my clients understand me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel that responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it's so helpful. I mean, that's how your clients also build their education around what you're doing. So that's a huge value. I mean, you can get a lot of great information from your advisor that you can then use on your own as well. So,
Indeed. Yes.
So let's talk about the divorce, the group of divorcees that you help.
Okay.
What do you kind of find that, there's a million situations, but can you give us a couple of stories or case studies?
Sure. Well, I can tell you there's a theme. Okay. So there's a theme that I've discovered, and I have, a subgroup of clients who usually it's the woman, and who are in divorce or have recently become divorced and find that this is the first time in their life that they are in charge of their own finances. It's very common in families and with couples. It's not that the husband is a bad guy and tried to keep the information from her, but we all have incredibly busy lives, and raising a family is a challenge. And so there ends up being just this natural delegation of responsibility. Right. And so when one gets divorced, all of a sudden they have to know how to do all the jobs that was happening within that family. I often refer to a family as a business. Yes. Having a family is like running a business. And so I have found a lot of personal satisfaction in helping these clients who come to me, and maybe they have investment accounts or half of the investment accounts after the assets have been divided, and don't know what they have no idea what to do with it. Yeah. And frankly, might not even understand how to do basic budgeting and bill paying and understand their cash flow. And so I really like to help them and start from the beginning. And I feel like I have some patience and try to make them feel understood, and that it's okay. It wasn't their fault that they find themselves. Sometimes they're feeling shameful that they, are embarrassed that they don't know these things. And I say, well, it's, you haven't been doing it for 20 years. Somebody else was taking care of this in your family. So I enjoy helping them get up to speed. Sometimes it comes down to starting with, what are you paying monthly just for your basic bills? And a lot of times they don't know. So we work through that. We use a worksheet. We get to get through that process. But, I also understand that they've just gotten through a very traumatic life experience. Maybe not traumatic, not all divorces are traumatic, but regardless, it's still a big change of life. It's a big change in the way that they're conducting themselves. And so, I like to help them through it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I do think people, they need somebody to help them build their confidence and to understand these basic things. And, I say basic, but I'm not dismissing them as easy. I mean, it's often hard for all of us to actually budget and spend the time on that. And so, it's not a silly thing. A lot of it is the time that's involved. And you're right. People have been raising families and doing all kinds of things. And so it's not that they're not interested. It's not that they're not smart enough. It's just that they haven't put the hours in. Like
they just don't have the experience.
Right.
I had a very interesting situation come up recently. I have a new client, and she's in this position. She's recently divorced, received half of her husband's trading account, his fun account, his account that he had where he would dabble in buying stocks, and I enjoyed watching them grow and tried to pick stocks that he thought would go up in value. And so she found herself with half of that account, and that account held a stock that went up 1,000%.
Oh, that's great.
And so, if you know about, and it was not in a retirement account, it's in a regular account. So if she were to sell some of that, there would be a lot of tax to be paid because her gain was based on what he purchased it for way back when. I mean, it wasn't even that long ago. It was.
Right.
So there was a little bit of urgency there because this particular company in stock, in my opinion, is volatile. It was at a very nice high value at the time that she came to me, but I needed to very quickly explain to her how that worked, why it was important to potentially sell a portion of it now, but I had to quickly get her up to speed, which was not the pace I enjoy. I would prefer to take time and let's start with budgeting first, and then we'll talk about the concept of investing and then get there. But I felt that we needed to do that right away. And so, we accomplished it, but it was, she had a lot of faith and trust in me and took my advice, even though I know that, she may not fully, have all the bits of detail that I would like her to have to get to that point of understanding.
Yeah. I love that because, she could have easily missed that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So just having somebody else looking or knows what they're doing, looking at the situation and deciding what the priorities were and where to take action and what to wait on. Super important. I don't think, we should do these things alone. I think it's really important to have somebody else helping.
Well, I'm only an expert in what I do. I'm certainly not an expert in all these other things in life.
Yeah. Well,
but it means you have to find somebody you trust, and that's not easy. Trust is earned, with time and experience with a person. So that's the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of curious myself because I'm a little older and I have older friends who are, maybe they're getting divorced at a later age.
Mm-hmm.
And, this idea of do I try to build my retirement account or do I just build an investment account? I mean, the retirement account is so important, but if you're late in the game and you're going to have to start pulling from it at a point, not too far away. I don't know. I was just, for some reason, this has been one of those things that I've been thinking about.
Well, the key difference between a retirement account and, a regular account, or what I call a taxable account, it just are the tax, there are different tax consequences
Right.
and advantages to the different types of accounts. So, also, if one wanted to contribute to an IRA or wanted to contribute more, say they're working and they want to contribute more to their 401k or their employer sponsored plan, there are limits to that. And so that's all part of the discussion, right? And whether or not if you have more money to save than what you can put into a retirement account, then you look at, typically I say, well, let's put it in your retirement account first because there are advantages to that. And then, but there's only so much you can put in each year. Then we'll perhaps look at saving more in a taxable account and what that looks like. And of course, again, going back, it all depends. It depends on the financial situation of the person I'm talking to. So if that person is trying to rebuild or they want to save for a home, then the money that we're investing on the side, perhaps in a taxable account, will be much more conservative. Maybe not a huge rate of return, but that the principal is going to be there in the moment that you need it. Yeah. So again, never simple answers to these questions, but sitting down and talking about it and understanding all the moving parts can really help a person have an idea of what they should be doing going forward.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point because it really isn't simple. I think we beat ourselves up thinking I should make better decisions, but these are complicated decisions to make. So,
they are. It takes a little time, and it's nice to have somebody that can kind of give you some guidance and make a somewhat challenging or maybe muddy in your mind. You're not quite sure where things should go, and it help you to find some clarity.
Yeah. And we're getting to the end of the year. So it's kind of a prime time to be having this conversation because, the end of the year is going to close out some options for you, but there are things you can do before the end of the year. And then the beginning of the year is such a great time to sort of really embark on this whole journey if you haven't done it, or even if you have done it, to, relook at everything.
It's always great to relook. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a person about, and a lot of times I will talk to clients about estate planning as well. Estate planning, it has a similar theme in that a financial plan and an estate plan need to be revisited so that you still feel the same about the planning that you did 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Or, with estate planning, it's important to look at who your beneficiaries are or who you have as your successor trustee or your executor of your estate. Sometimes family dynamics change. Sometimes, the adult child that you thought was going to handle your estate, you're no longer getting along with, or their life has changed in a way that you don't have that trust with them any longer. Or it could be many different things. Or on a more positive note, you decide you want to do some giving in a way that you didn't already delineate in your estate planning documents. And that goes hand in hand with the financial planning part of it. If you want to fund all of these types of things, then you've got to really look at where the funding will come from, what types of accounts you have in place, all of that.
Yeah, thank you. That's so important for people. I do think that's like the piece that kind of gets left behind, and all of a sudden we own assets that aren't in our trust, and things happen. Yeah, that's great. And then also, you deal somewhat on the insurance side as well, correct?
Yes, I do. I mean, I always discuss insurance with clients. It's part of, being a certified financial planner means that I've had training in insurance, estate planning, education saving, investments, of course, financial planning. All of those aspects of what I do are part of the financial planning process. So, I do have the opportunity to help clients obtain life insurance, which includes long-term care insurance. And so that, whether or not I was insurance licensed and could help clients obtain those products still wouldn't matter. I would still be having that discussion with clients because it's important to, when younger people have a family and they might have a substantial mortgage, life insurance is a really key piece to provide protection to the other spouse in the event that something were to happen to one. Long-term care is becoming more and more of a subject that people want to know about. It's, I call it a portfolio protector, an investment portfolio protector, because if someone were to need, very costly care for a number of years, it could really make an impact on that retirement savings that they have. So it's not fun to talk about insurance. And sometimes I make jokes that everything I do is about planning for when you die, which is not a fun conversation to have. But it sure does allow for some living, in the sense that if you have things in place and planned, then your brain space is not taken up with concern or worry, or, it sort of like makes room for the great things in life.
Absolutely. And I actually do see this as more of a planning for living. I mean, dying's going to come and it'd be nice to die with things organized and accumulated and all of that. But the reality is this is about living in your later years,
Yes.
and I kind of, insurance to me, I actually really like insurance because it does give you that peace of mind. I mean, again, it really comes down to feeling more free and having that peace of mind so that you can enjoy your life. I mean, worrying about money is one of the biggest stressors out there, and it really undermines, your living. And so I think it's all of this is a positive. It's all really good to feel like you have control, to feel like hopefully have wealth, but even if it's not where you want it to be, to understand and feel like you're at least driving the ship, it's so important to our.
And it can make a huge difference. Just a little planning and a little bit of understanding of, even if you only have an extra $25 a month to put aside to save, it matters. It makes a difference. And it's most impactful if that message can get through and understanding is happening with younger people. And that, I've got some great examples that I can share with you, Michelle, one day. What happens if you start to save when you're 25 versus when you start saving when you're 35? And it can be a very similar amount, but when you get to the retirement age, I mean, the power of the time value of money and compounding is mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. But, you mentioned, being too late, or, oh my gosh. And, I didn't start until I was, in my 40s, or it's not too late. Is the moment that you sit down and you look at it and you go, okay, this is what I can do. And this is what a result could look like. I think it's very encouraging, and it can provide sort of a little glimmer of hope in what looks like a bad situation. And I've experienced it myself. I had a moment in my life where I had to start again and really, truly start over. But it's not too late. It really isn't. It's take a look and sometimes people just put their head in the sand and they don't want to look at it.
That's what I see a lot. I mean, often those are the people who call me to learn about money. And, I think people quickly find that trying to avoid it, to avoid the stress, it doesn't work. But actually tackling it and starting to understand it gives a huge sense of relief. So
it does. And I understand the head in the sand mentality. I don't ever judge.
Right.
I know that you provide a lot of education and help and relief to your clients in that regard. And again, I think that sometimes people just feel embarrassed, or they don't want to talk to a professional because they feel like they're going to feel stupid, or they're just, but we're all humans here, and things happen in life. And if you can help them, Michelle, or I can provide them a little bit of relief, to me, that's what makes my job satisfying.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. And, the worrying and the stress is not just for people who don't have wealth, as you know. People who do have wealth are sometimes just
Sometimes more distressed.
Right.
Yet. Right.
Can you give us an example of that where you've actually had to tell somebody you don't have to worry, like you're fine? You can spend some money?
Yes, I have more clients than you'd know. I'm trying to think of the best example. So I have clients, they're a couple, and they are sort of old school savers, and they've amassed a really lovely retirement savings for themselves, and they live very frugally. They live way under their means. And about once every couple of years, the wife will call me and say that she's just worried that they're going to run out of money. And I try to listen carefully, and then I describe to her, based on your current lifestyle, you will never run out of money. In fact, your retirement savings is going to continue to grow well past you and your husband's lifetime. Mm-hmm. So is there anything that you want to do that you've been, and I'll say you've been working, what did you work so hard for your whole life? But what makes a person happy and comfortable is different for maybe what you would do, Michelle, or what I would do. And sometimes for a person like that, what makes her comfortable is knowing that there is all this money up there, and that they're safe, and that they're not going to run out of money. She needs to hear that they're not going to run out of money, and that's what makes her happy. And going on vacation makes her nervous. Mm-hmm. And even as much as I try to encourage her to do the things that they would like to do, that's more uncomfortable for them than just knowing that they have this security in this nest egg that they've built. So it's very interesting. But I have plenty of clients that I say, look, you've got, you're in your early 70s, go travel, go do the things you want to do while you're still energetic and you want to, and you've got all these ideas. This is what you worked for.
Jennifer, you just taught me something really interesting, and I love this as a wrap up for the show because I always want to bring up people's relationship with money. And I'm always thinking in terms of people who really need to or want to change their relationship with money because it's holding them back. But you brought up something really beautiful, which is some people have a relationship with money that they're comfortable with. They like, it's not, it's not creating trouble for them. And so to just allow them to have their relationship and accept that, maybe is in my relationship, but yours is working for you, and great. I really love that, because if she is more comfortable in that example with having this money and not really spending it on the things that you or I might spend it on, that should be okay. Like, that's great, actually. That is a good relationship. It's her special relationship.
Well, it's okay because I don't see any dire risk to that.
Right.
Now, a person who's spending too much and it is clear that they're going to be overspending and putting themselves in a bad position, I will be a little bit more proactive, obviously.
Yeah. And you could hear a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, you're not living your life. You're going to have regret or whatever, but that's just a different mindset.
That's a judgment.
It's a judgment, and it's their relationship with money and their mindset around it, and really shouldn't be imposed on anyone. So I found that really interesting. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I think we often place the template of the way we think and the way our mind works over others, and it doesn't work. The template doesn't fit. It's not the same.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right, right. That's the whole idea. I mean, you should have a limit-free life and you should live it the way
Yes.
there are terms. And if those are your terms, then cool. Yeah, I love that. I think it's really important for people to feel free to do money in a way that satisfies them. And so and I love that you take that into consideration with your clients. So, well, I'm afraid we're pretty out of time here. So I really appreciate your insights. And I think it's so interesting to hear the stories that financial planners hear. And those examples are I think they're so valuable for people, especially people who think everybody else is doing it right and everybody else knows what they're doing. And so it's always good to hear. There's so many, different examples of things going on in people's financial lives. So it's interesting.
Right. There's no one way.
No. And I can see where that would keep your job really super interesting.
It is. I love it. It's fascinating.
Yeah. So can you tell people how to get a hold of you? And do you work with people virtually as well?
Absolutely. Yes. I have numerous clients that are out of state. I even have a client who lives in Europe now. But my website is there on the screen. And if you go to my website, you can certainly see I've got my office phone there and my email address. I won't bore you by
I'll put it out
here on the screen.
It's Kate Capital.
Kate Capital Group is the name of my firm. And I'm in Westlake Village, California. But again, geography is not an obstacle. So yes, just take it.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you, listeners. We love having you listen to the Money and You show. If you liked the show, or if you think of somebody who could use this information, please share it. And we would love it if you would subscribe either in the podcast platforms or on the Limit Free Life YouTube channel. And if you'll have Jennifer's information, and I'm assuming people can just call and have a chat of some kind with you.
Of course.
Okay.
Any way you'd like to communicate is fine with me.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. And listeners, thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.